Welcome everyone. Good evening, Rotarians, district governor, past district governors, assistant district governor, uh, vocational service committee at the district, Rotary members. Welcome today to today's webinar on vocational services in Rotary world. I'm Sunil Sharma, vocational service chair, 23-24 Rotary year, and an active member of Rotary Club of Brampton South. And I'm delighted to be your host for today's webinar. Today we have an exciting and informative vocational service session lined up for you all. The purpose of this webinar is, as you all know, Rotary Vocational Service is one of the avenues of service in Rotary, emphasizing the importance of high ethical standards in business and professions, recognizing the worthiness of all useful occupations, and fostering the ideal of service in the pursuit of vocations. January being the Rotary Vocational Service Month, we have a special guest speaker to address our Rotarians on the same. This will be an interactive session. Before we introduce our special guest speaker, we have housekeeping items. If you have any technical issues and concerns, please log out and log in back in the Zoom meeting. I will hand over to our district governor, Brenda Holland, to introduce our RI president for Rotary year 25-26, Mário de Camargo. So please go ahead, Brenda, to introduce our guest speaker.
Well, thank you very much, Sunil, and hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is going to be a great webinar. And for February, having the opportunity to have our Rotary International President for 2025-26, Mário de Camargo, speaking with us is such an honor. And I was just telling him that I'm really thrilled because I'll be able to say I knew him when he was not the prez. So I'm going to use that far and wide. And what a delight to speak with you. And he just shared with me that you're in Brazil. You're calling him from Brazil. And what is happening there right now?
And Brenda, right now we're in the midst of carnival. You can see you can see over the Samba schools parading in Rio. Globally, it's being globally distributed. It's probably one of the most popular events in the globe. It's it became a big business in Brazil in the last couple of years. Yeah.
Now, did you leave your costume? Did you take your costume off so you could speak with us this evening?
Yeah, kind of. I had a wig. I had a wig, special wig.
Oh, did you? That's great. Well, it's my honor to introduce you, Mário, and I'm just going to share Mário's bio with everyone. So Mário was president of Gráfica Bandeirantes and has been a consultant to the print industry in Brazil. He has also served as president and chair of several printing and graphics trade associations, including the Brazilian Association of Graphic Technology and ABIGRAF, the Brazilian Printing Industry Association. He has served on the board of Casa de Esperança, which is the House of Hope, a hospital sponsored by his Rotary Club that serves 150,000 children with disabilities every year. Wow. Mário studied in the US and Germany and holds degrees from EAESP das Fundação Getúlio Vargas in Business Administration and Faculdade de Direito de São Bernardo de Campo in Law. I know I didn't do well in that, but I got it out as best I could. He was a youth exchange participant to Minnesota, USA in 1974-75, which inspired a lifelong commitment to the program. He's been a Rotarian since 1980, and he has served as this club's youth exchange officer in 1981 at the age of 24. He has served Rotary as director, trustee, RI learning facilitator, committee member and chair, and task force member. Mário and his wife Denise are major donors and benefactors of the Rotary Foundation. Well, my goodness, you're wow. What a career and what a life story you have with Rotary so far, Mário. And I'm just so honored to have you with us this evening. You gave up a night of partying and doing all sorts of fun things just to be with us. And thank you so very, very much.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for having me, Sunil and Brenda. It's a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to talk to Rotarians always.
Thank you, Brenda, for introducing Mario. So now the stage is for you, Mario, to address our district members and all Rotarians who are watching this webinar. So all yours.
Yeah. Well, once again, thank you guys for inviting me, for having me over. It has been a hell of a ride since September 15, when I was confirmed the president nominee of Rotary International. And there is a history behind that. I'm the fourth president coming from Brazil to lead Rotary in its 120 years of service. So it's a privilege and an honor to represent not only my country, but the whole Latin America, because Latin America hasn't had a Rotary president since 2001, when Frank Devlin was RI president, representing Mexico at that time. The last Brazilian president was Paulo Costa in 1990, 1991. So 34, soon to complete 35 years back. And it's a real pleasure and a real honor to be here with you. Vocational service is the gateway to Rotary. And I think that sometimes I'm very candid. You will have to deal with me, because in my candor, I sometimes extrapolate. So if I do, just forgive me. I think we've lost some of the magic that vocational services brings to the table. Well, how do you say that? We don't know Rotarians by their professions anymore. When we go into Rotary, when we are inducted into Rotary, we tend to forget what our professions are. It's never Mario the printer or the former printer, because I closed my shop in 2018. But it's Mario the trustee, Mario the director, Mario the president nominee. And I think that we lose by forgetting who we are and by forgetting what we can do for each other. You don't have to be very knowledgeable about Rotary history to know that almost exactly 119 years ago, next February 23rd, some days down the road, four guys, four different professions, united around a table to start our organization, representing different professions. And I think that we should come back to some of the values that gave birth to our organization, mainly recognizing the power of our vocation, our profession, our business in the modern Rotary world. I think sometimes in the quest for membership growth, we tend to abandon some of the principles that we have adopted. And I think we lose by not reinforcing that we want diversity in not only gender, not only sex orientation, not only race or ethnics or religion. We also want professional diversity. We want people coming from different walks of life. We want business people. We want attorneys. I've become an attorney myself after I sold my business back in 2018. We want doctors. We want dentists like Gordon McNally. We want teachers, educators like Stephanie Urchik. And I think that vocational services is key to preserving quality in our membership. I have no doubt that membership is our number 1, 2, and 3 priority. It's our biggest asset, our biggest priority, and at the same time, excuse me for a second. Our biggest asset, our biggest priority, and at the same time, our biggest challenge. If you think of an institution that has, and I use the word stagnated because we are stagnated at 1.2 million. Some people say, oh, okay, we are 1.4. Rotaract. We don't even know how many Rotaractors we have out there yet. So let's face the problem as it is. We have a membership growth problem. We have an age problem. We are aging. We're not getting any younger. I'm 67. I joined Rotary when I was 23, so 44 years ago, coming next October. And this is a picture that represents Rotary overall around the globe, plus or minus 5 or 6 or 7 years. But it's 62 years old. We are 62 in the average of our population. So we have to renew our membership, rejuvenate. How we're going to do this? Vocational service is a big gateway to promote this. And I think we are not enjoying the opportunities as much as we did in the past. I recognize today in modern world, we cannot impose restrictions as rigid as we did when I joined Rotary. I remember we were supposed to be one of each profession in a club, with the exception of the news people, the newspaper people, the communications people. And we had a 10% largest participation in club membership for one specific profession, let's say doctors. My club has 150 members. It's a pretty large club. It's a pretty nice club, very traditional, but yet very modern. By the former standards, we would probably be reduced to 80 or 90 if we were to follow the strict guidelines we had on inducting new members as far as professional diversity went. So I'm glad that we are adopting a more modern approach, but at the same time, we cannot lose the guideline. I have a three-pronged approach to increase membership, and I'll share those briefly with you now. The first one is innovation. We have new club formats out there that have been out there for 6, 7, 8 years, like satellite clubs. And I know there is resistance to adoption of new formats. Some of those clubs are considered second-grade clubs. That's what my club president told me when I was incoming director back in 2018. And knowing that, I said, well, I challenge you to give me a gift. At the end of my 2 years as governor or as director, that happened back in 2021, I want a satellite club in our club, because you have to learn that there are new ways of making Rotary out there. I love my club, the format, the friendship, the fellowship, the institutions that we administer and manage. Nevertheless, we were getting old. So by creating a satellite club, we inducted 47 women into the club. And my club never forbade women from being admitted, but it was 10%, 12%. Today, women represent 35% of my club. The old guys never complained. They understood the message. And Sunil, if you look around the globe, we only have 9,000 members of Rotary that belong to satellite clubs. 9,000. So it's 0.75%. I wouldn't call that a success. That's a failure. I mean, we have to divulge, we have to publicize that. We have to evangelize. We have to show people that there are other ways to achieve the result that Rotary needs in the community other than the legacy club. The second principle is continuity. The higher up the ladder you go in Rotary, more egos come into play, and less sense of continuity is activated. So Gordon, Stephanie, and I are really in sync. I mean, I talk to Stephanie twice or three times a week, and with Gordon at least once a week. So we communicate. We do not always agree. It's very healthy that we keep not always the same perspective on things. I mean, that's diversity of ideas. That contributes to the wealth of Rotary. I mean, we don't want people saying, you know, unanimously approved. You want people to dissent, to disagree, to present a different perspective. But even though we have to maintain that healthy discussion, debate of ideas within the framework of continuity. And that teaches us that our ego, and don't tell me that to be a district governor in Rotary, you have to have ego. To be a director, your ego grows bigger. And to be president, your ego is gigantic. But we have to manage ego to the benefit of our institution rather than surpass the value of the institution. So continuity is key if we are to achieve anything in Rotary. I come from the business world. You know, I had a printing company, a very large one in Brazil for almost 40 years. You don't have to ask me about the necessity, the need for continuity. Ask Tesla, ask Microsoft, ask General Motors, ask Amazon. We are going to change our management from top down every single year. Every single board member, every single governor, every single club president. And you mirror that on a company, the guys would say, you guys are nuts. You'll never achieve anything. Because when you're starting to learn, then you are dropped out. And yet we managed to survive. So we have to grasp that magic that keeps us working at full blast. I mean, I know that Brenda is dedicated 150% of herself this year, because that's what Rotary demands from us, over the fans' dedication all the time. But then you have to be humble enough to say that next year's governor is going to receive the baton from my hands. And I don't want to drop it, because the district hurts, the club hurts, and Rotary hurts. Every time we put ourselves beyond the institution, we diminish, we reduce the capacity of service that this institution of ours provides. And third and last, and has something to do with vocational services, I'm a big fan of partnerships. And that's a lesson I learned from belonging to the International Polio Plus Committee when I was a trustee of the Rotary Foundation. Our partnership with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, with WHO, with UNICEF, with Gavin, with CDC, you name it. All those big guys. We raised $2.5 billion US from our pockets, from Bill and Melinda Gates' pockets. Everyone knows the number. What most people don't know, however, is Polio Plus has cost the globe 21 billion. So our biggest influence was not to raise money. Our biggest influence was to advocate for the cause and convince other institutions to invest their money with us in our cause. So my line of thought is, if partnerships are so important, why don't we partner for members? Last week I was in Brasilia. Most of you know is the capital of Brazil. And I had a meeting with the president of the Trade Federation of Brasilia, himself a Rotarian, Marcelo. He's a Rotarian, but how many Rotarians are there in his board? Only 3 out of 31. And once again, it's vocational. They're all tradespeople. They're all business people. Better yet, they're collective-minded, just like we are. They're not thinking about their own navels, around their 1 meter around them. They're thinking of the good of the segment, of the business segment. They're fighting for the agribusiness. They're fighting for trade. They're fighting for beyond their own companies and personal interests. So I think this is the type of people that we have. We don't have to sell Rotary. We have just to show what we do. I have been very successful in presenting Rotary to those people. And to my surprise, they all recognize our work. We are really known around the globe. And I say that because it's not only Brazil. I was in the US, in Georgetown, Texas, 3 weeks ago. The first thing I asked is, I want to talk to the Chamber of Commerce in Georgetown. And 2 months ago, I was in Bangalore, India. And I did a tour in around that region, which is the Silicon Valley of India, where the tech industry in India resides. And I presented Rotary to the trade, the industry, the trade associations, to show that Rotary is open and that we have similar minds. We think outside of the box. We think of service above self. We think of the others before we think of ourselves. And I think vocational service is an excellent door to pursue that objective of raising our membership numbers, especially in the US. US accounts for the loss of 130,000 Rotarians over the last 20 years. The US had 400,000 members in 2004. Today, it has 272 members, 72,000 members. Still the strongest and largest Rotary workforce on the planet. But we have to buck the trend. We have to reverse that falling trend. And we have to be younger. We have to talk a speech, a discourse that the younger people recognize and want to join. And I think younger people are receptive to our message. Maybe they're not receptive to some of the clubs that we have. Because let's recognize, let's admit it, some of our club meetings are boring, downright boring. Too much formality, too much hand clapping, blah, blah, blah. They want results, they want service, they want engagement. So if we don't provide that to them, they're going to look elsewhere. That's the reason I believe that we have a huge opportunity amongst the younger people. And I tell that from my own experience. I'm coming from the ranks of the Youth Exchange Program. As Brenda rightfully said, I went to Minnesota back in 74, 75. I survived a Siberian winter in Minnesota, which must be very similar to the winter in Canada, considering that I was like 150 miles. I was in Minneapolis, so I recognize how winter in Canada might be. But it opened up the gates of the world to me. And that's the reason I joined Rotary. as a payback. And I think younger people have that mindset also. We just have to pick the right people. When we pick somebody for the youth exchange program or for Rotary or for scholarship, let's be a little selfish and think of this candidate. Will he or she be interested in joining Rotary when he or she is benefited in his profession, in his personal life, moving forward? That's a big question. And I think vocational services has a key role in developing that. After all, a lot of us are professionals. All of us depend on our vocations for survival. And I think, and I will defend and I'll stand up for the vocational services always, always, as the best ruler for inducting new members in Rotary. Once again, Sunil, thank you, Brenda, for having me, for giving me my candor. I sometimes speak too much or speak too fervently about some issue, but that's the way I joined Rotary. That's the way I love Rotary. It's a passion.
Well, that was wonderful. I've been taking notes as you're speaking, Mario, because I know a lot of the people on the Zoom call this evening feel exactly the same way as you do. And I love that you have your 3 areas of focus or your 3, did you call them? Yeah, your innovation. I love that. Absolutely love that. Partnership and a vocational. It's interesting that a lot of us are talking about the same thing and how important it is, and continuity. That's a huge thing. And I think with the changes, that not having a different theme every year, kind of upsetting where people are heading, and keeping it continuous now. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. And the feedback I get from people in our members in our district is they like the idea of keeping it service above self, and we can all focus on that. When I go out to meetings and I ask, what is our theme for this year? Not a lot of people know, even though we really talk about it, promote it. So the continuity piece, I think, is very, very important. And I love your leadership ideas of vocational services and talking with our Chamber of Commerce. We're doing that ourselves. We're going out as much as possible. We're trying to get beyond the discomfort of asking for sponsorships, which is, it might be more of a Canadian thing too. We don't like to ask for money. We're very polite, we say sorry all the time. But I think that's really important because we have strayed away from the original goals of Rotary, which was based on vocation and going after business leaders, people in the business community, providing opportunities for networking, but giving it that community thrust and spirit. But we also have to go after our young people. And just to share with you, in our district, I'm really proud that we do have a very vibrant Rotary Youth Exchange program happening now. And we have 8 students out, and we've got another 8 that are getting ready for next year. And we're having a lot of fun with that. And they're going to be involved in our district conference, because involving youth and showing them the greatness of Rotary and the opportunity is so, so critical to keeping people on board. I mean, you started at 24. You've been with us for a few years.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been there I'm completing 44 years this year.
A lot of Rotary. That's love. That's a lot of Rotary love. We just are starting. We're in the midst of starting our first cause-based e-club. And I have to admit, a lot of people are a little bit, kids, what is this? So we need to, let's go for it. Let's just try them. We have nothing to lose. And we have a passport club, and that's thriving. So your message is just excellent and really resonating with all of us this evening. So I'm going to stop for and 150 members in your club. Wow, that's a big club. But what you do is really, to have that many members, you have a lot of finances behind you, and you can do transformative things like helping 150,000 children. That's just a dream. And yes, our winters are cold. like Minnesota. But this year, we haven't had snow in a long, long time. So you'd almost like it. It's kind of nice, and it's only 0 degrees. It's warm. It's a warm day for us.
I know. I was in
So I'm just,
Chicago. I was in
yeah,
Chicago
yeah.
a month ago. It was like -20.
You had to rush home. So Sunil, I'll put it back to you because I know there
Sure.
must be people
Thank
wanting to
you.
ask questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mario. I second it. You clearly mentioned to all the members that Rotary is not for selling. It is only for showing and showcasing what we do for Rotary and service above self. And I also see membership is very, very key for Rotary. And we need from all background, the people coming in Rotary to make vocational services a great place to work at Rotary as well. Yeah, thank you so much for giving us your valuable suggestions and guiding to everyone. And I have a couple of questions for you before we close. So during your term, what would be the primary goal of vocational services?
Vocational services is, in my understanding, is the best tool to induct new members. So I think that we should explore that to a bigger extent that we are doing right now. I think that we changed the focus a little bit around, over the last decades, because I think we are shy and timid and shameful of admitting that we are connecting and we are doing business.
Yeah.
I want to do business within the Rotary world. We cannot lose that. I mean, we have the privilege to have some of the best business people and professional minds around the globe. Why don't we incentivize business amongst ourselves? It's no shame. I mean, some Rotarians say, no, I'm here to serve others. Okay, that's good. We serve the community. We're helping people who otherwise wouldn't have probably any success in life. And that's one of our jobs, one of our tests. But I think it's detrimental to us if we deny the interest that we have in promoting business and promoting professions amongst ourselves. My attorney is from my club. My dentist is the current district governor. My doctor was a past district governor from my club. I buy cars from a car dealership that belongs to a Rotary in my club. So I think that that's no shame. I mean, and then you create interest in people saying, you've got a safe business environment. You've got a safe professional environment within the club. And that's my club. My club is like that. That's why we never had a problem of membership. We are inducting 4 new members this very same week. Whilst other clubs in the city, my city has 6 clubs. Ours is the only one growing. It's like a magnet, a good magnet. It attracts people because people want to have connections with important people that add something to their lives.
Yeah.
So I think we have to sell that. It's my attrition rate in my club is minimal. I use a joke. My club only loses members to Paul Harris' club, Rotary Club of Paradise, up in heaven. Sometimes some of us are called to be the sergeant at arms for the next Paul Harris meeting.
No, that's sweet. I totally agree with you. That we're the best kept secret. We all say that, right? We're the best kept secret. So something that we're doing here in our district is the clubs are making presentations to the mayor and council of their cities so that they can get some acknowledgement and get some PR about what they're doing. And the club that I'm with, we asked our city if we could have a spot in the the local garden, and we're going to have a bit of a peace garden, and it'll be the Rotary Club of Waterloo. We're just, we just have to get out there and, like you say, connect with people, make those partnerships. We're partnering with our city, and it hasn't been done before. But I think again, Rotarians tend to be a little bit shy about this, and again, incentivize business. Build rosters and connect with all the business people in our clubs. It's a really, really important thing to do, and we talk about that a lot here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if we dig a little bit further back in our history, I like reading Rotary history every once in a while to see, because we tend to think that we invented the wheel. We tend to think that, wow, everything is new, we're going to be innovative. So when I preach innovation, I always go back in time and recognize that history was innovative also at that time. There was a Canadian guy called James Wheeler Davidson, Canadian, that was living in the US and served in First World War. I think he was a colonel in the army. And he was in charge by Paul Harris himself to spread Rotary to the east. So he was sent on a mission, and by being a military, he understood very clearly what a mission was. So he set out to go charting clubs in Turkey, in Greece, in Pakistan, and whatever, everywhere he went, Malaysia, Philippines. He chartered clubs, moving outside of Europe, going eastward. He is called the Marco Polo of Rotary because of that, because he opened up the gates of, what did he do? Every country that he approached, he would ask for an interview with the parliament, with the king, with the president, with the business leaders, and he presented Rotary to those people. So there's no shame in doing that. I mean, he did it 90 years ago in a mission given by Paul Harris himself. So if we did that in the past and our membership grew, maybe we should read about our history and recreate and renovate our history, because some of the secrets lie 90 years ago. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to read.
So true. So true.
Thank you. I have another question. As you mentioned, you have 150 members in your club. So do you have any small success story on vocational services where it impacted the world?
My club is basically made up of business professionals and professionals. And without modesty, I mean, we gather all the leaders of our community. We live in a city with 720,000 people. Our club has 150 members, and you've got the leaders of the community. You've got the appeals court judge. You've got the bank partner. You've got the vice mayor. You've got everyone who matters. The guy who is building, the constructor, the builder, the doctor, the physician, the dentist, everybody. So we are I would say we are very honest, a mirror of our society. And I think one of the facts of our success is basically having a diverse vocational service representation. We don't have a dominance of anybody. We have 6 or 7 lawyers, but in a 150 member club, 6 or 7 lawyers, I'm a lawyer myself, nobody's perfect, but they don't dominate the club. And I think that if you think of a vocational diversity is a key to success of a club, and much of our success is due to vocational services and community services. We have 4 permanent institutions. This one, Casa de Esperanza, which I've been a trustee of for 20 years, has an annual budget of $12 million US. So What does that represent to our club? It represents the engagement of 22 members because we have a lot of work. We need a lot of volunteers. So we are on the board. I had a very interesting story. There was this guy who was in another club in the city, in town, and he approached me in one of our meetings. He visited my club and said, I'm leaving Rotary because my club doesn't do anything. And we told him, Luis Borsari is his name. He was a retired CFO of Ford Motor Company. Does he add value or not? I mean, a CFO, a country CFO for Ford Motor Company, a guy who has connections in the bank world, the business world, you name it, the government. He said, I'm tired of going to this meeting and just having a couple beers and talking blah, 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 with no content. I'm leaving Rotary. You guys do not understand what I can do for you. So we said, we have this House of Hope project, and we need some strategic planning and financial planning 5 years ahead, because we're doing it annually. And we have to foresee the future because we have some heavy investments in sight. Said, that's my hometown. That's my home turf. I can help you with that. In the midst of the program, he joined Casa da Esperança and he joined my club. So he never left Rotary. He left a purposeless club to a purposeful club. So he found meaning. And his wife joined my wife's club, which is the satellite club. So we got 2 members by engaging one person. So I think that's the challenge of us. We've got to engage professional people are disputed. They need their expertise. If Rotary doesn't require their expertise, they leave. They go serve somewhere else. So that's my idea about this.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate your insights on the questions came up. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I know it is
My pleasure.
8:45 p.m. local time for you. Thank you so much for joining in the late night for you. I would like to thank you on behalf of all the district members and district governor and past district governors, our vocational service committee team, everyone, all the members. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Yes.
And stay safe, stay healthy until we meet in person in Singapore.
Okay, Sunil, Brenda, thank you very much for the
Thank you
invitation.
so much.
I
Thank
love
you.
to share ideas with Rotarians everywhere around the globe.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
what
you
we're
for
all
the
about.
opportunity to do so.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, all the members who joined today's session. Thank you so much.